Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round, and with it the season finale of the Middle of the Pack Racing League Winter GR86 Championship for 2024, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And that's right, folks, it is today round 8 of 8 here, and we are bringing the curtain down on what has been an absolutely thrilling championship from start to finish thus far. And there's one last turn in the tails. I'll try to get ready to go racing in the season finale here in Australia at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, located on the island from which the circuit takes its name. But as all our drivers get ready to go racing today, well, let's talk a little bit about our host venue. It couldn't be the better venue for our drivers to go racing, to bring the curtain down and to crown our champions, because given the fact we are going into today with all of our overall championships still wide open, whether it be in the Pro, the Prime or the Am Drivers Championships, or alternatively in the Teams overall championship, and we've also got the Far East Cups to conclude in the Pro, Prime and Am classes as well. The Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit is a circuit which is brimming with batting potential, with the fact it has 12 corners, 2.76 miles of asphalt for our drivers to charge round, and the common denominator across it all is that the corners weave their way through the local hilly terrain. It is a circuit where you can go too wide at practically every corner when it comes to Toyota GR86 racing. And as we get ready to hear the roar of the 2.4 litre boxer engines for our drivers' Japanese machines, well, where better to bring the curtain down where we could have a battle into each and every corner. And let's take you into our schedule for tonight. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC, as we bring you this post-round broadcast. And as we can see, in just under 13 minutes' time, we're making our way to the grid for our feature race finale. What of it being our 8th round? We have 2 feature races in the season, both of them at the ends, the bookends, if you will, of what is each of the cups. And we're going to be having our Far East Cup feature race to bring everything to a close. And we're in this post-round broadcast. Of course, the race is occurring as of earlier this week, back on what was Wednesday, the 13th of March 2024. But we're bringing it to you as if it were live today here at Circuit Side on Saturday, the 16th of March 2024. And what does that mean for you guys and girls at home? Well, we do not know in the commentary with what happens in the practice, which is currently ongoing, or 30 in the qualifying session. That's not going to be taking place. They give it it's a feature race, or the actual race itself, which will see us take our final checker flag. So it's absolutely raw and new and live to ourselves here in the commentary booth, and that's why we're going to be aiming for the absolutely raw live experience for you guys and girls at home, even though the races occurred previously. And if you are one of the drivers who participate in this round, or you do happen to know who is the winner and who are crowned the champions, well, please do avoid any potential spoilers in our respective chats. Speaking of which, this broadcast is being brought to you live via 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. The first being on YouTube at youtube.com, search for TX11TX or Paul Walsh, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube. Alternatively, if you're more of a Twitch person, you can of course make your way to twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. And who is Paul Walsh? Who is TX141? Well, I'm going to introduce myself for the final time this season. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit of the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action. Well, I have been doing so over the whole season. Now we bring it all to a close today, and what a season we have had, and what a round of racing we've got lying in wait. But let's give you a recap of the championship calendar. And as we see, we started off our journey all the way back on the 17th of January. It's crazy to think that already 7 weeks of racing have passed, and we're at 2 months of action. We started off with the Classic Cup back in the North American continent, and it was the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park that we got underway at the Motorsports Circuit, as it's also known for round number 1 in our sprint race opener. And as we made our way racing and charging away through the terrain of Canada, while drivers got to set themselves up for success in the run into an American triple header started at Lime Rock Park in round number 2. The US State of Connecticut really seeing what was Toyota's meets NASCAR meets MPRL, and that feat continued at Willow Springs on the 24th of January through to the 31st of January, as the drivers made their way from the state of Connecticut to the state of California for the Willow Springs Big Willow International Speedway Circuit. And on the 31st of January, we definitely got to see a few suspensions get rattled as our drivers took to those very aggressive curbs. But then they made their way to the US State of New York to conclude the Classic Cup in our first feature race round of the season at Watkins Glen International Circuit. And there at the Classic Cup course, we got to see our drivers battle to and fro. Some absolutely brilliant battles under braking into the bus stop chicane and also into the highly cambered corners. But on the 7th of February, we did crown our Classic Cup champions, and then we took our mid-season break. After our break week, we returned to commence the Far East Cup, and that began with a double header in Japan, with round number 5 being in the Okayama International Racing Course on the 21st of February, and then we made our way to Tsukuba in our second Japanese venue for round number 6 on the 28th of February, and 2 very different circuits, but one constant denominator between the 2 of them, in the fact the action could not have been closer between our drivers. And last time out, we began our Australian doubleheader to see out the season, with round number 7 being our final sprint race at the Oran Park Raceway Circuit. We brought it back from the grave after its closure in 2010. Nowadays a housing estate, but previously one of the premier racing circuits in Australia, and for our final sprint race of the season on the 6th of March, you could have not asked for more drama up and down the field. It didn't matter where you looked, whether it was at the front of the field all the way through to the rear of the field. There was battling action and drama aplenty, and it's definitely teed us up for a brilliant finale today at the Phillip Island Circuit in round 8 of 8 in this feature race. But before we go on to our circuit for today, let's talk a little bit about our championship standings, beginning with our overall championships, starting with the Pro Drivers' Championship. And as we can see, it is Jason Landry who leads the way on 285 points, I should say, to the 257 of Francois Shink. And with the gap there standing at what is an absolutely gargantuan 28 points at this time, on paper at least, Jason Landry is certain to take the championship. But then again, saying that, it's not over until the final checkered flag falls, and Jason Landry's still got to bring the car home, even with the drop scores in effect. Francois Shink, meanwhile, will be looking to try and hold it to P2 as a minimum, with Mika Hendricks, what is 9 points behind. And there's a further 20 to Jaden Callaway for the battle for P4 between Callaway and Logan McKenzie. Will right now the two drivers equal points, but McKenzie behind only based on result countback. Daniel McConnell a further 10 points behind. He's come on strong in the latter half of this season, and he'll be looking to try and sneak his way into the top 5 before all is said and done. With Carl Winery, after his win last time out, holding on to P7 now, 192 points to 189 at Edwin Offrare in their close little rivalry for P7. And then we have Zachary Lovelace, so further 8 points behind there, and also looking to get in amongst the pair as Milan Harris completes your top 10 on 60 points. James Logston sits P11, best rest on 51 points, not able to compete in the full season, but we've seen him on circuit. He's definitely been absolutely demonstrating his masterclass racing action. And the same for James D. Carr, who sits in P12 with 49 points, and those are the standings. We then come on to the Prime class, and here we can see a similar complexion. 25 points is the advantage that John Lauzon takes in today, and well, quite an appropriate saying here with regards to John Lauzon. He's always been the bridesmaid in an MPRL series. He's never been the bride, but could today be the day where he is married to what will be his first ever championship title? Well, right now the omens are looking good with that advantage of 25 points to Julian Jones, and Julian Jones will be looking as a minimum to try and take the win off of John Lauzon today. If he can't take the championship, he'll like to get one over his close rival, and therefore make sure he holds it to P2 and runs him all the way to the finish. David Adeyu's consistency means he moves back into P3 after the race at Oran Park, 2 points clear on Matt Best, who in turn sitting in P4 right now, looks to try and get himself back into the top 3 before all is said and done. And then Aaron Lara completes your top 5 ahead of Kevin Clark by 10 points, with David Turn, Sammy Hendricks, Samuel Bernardi and Jermaine Warren completing your top 10. Adam J. Ballard meanwhile sits in P11 and concludes the standings. And then come on to the AM class in our third overall Drivers' Championship. The complexion here is a little bit different in the fact that we currently have 4 primary candidates for the championship crown. Nick Bader sits 10 points clear of Kirk Lane. However, in a unique twist today, Nick Bader is not going to be on the grid. Unfortunately, due to personal circumstances, he can't make this round, and therefore it presents a prime opportunity for Kirk Lane to be able to try and take the title away from Bader. But it does mean that Lane is going to have to achieve a huge result. I do believe he's got to finish inside the top 7 in order to be able to take the crown away from Bader based on drop scores. So therefore, he's got a hard task ahead of him. But then again, anything is possible. Tim Chong, meanwhile, sits in P3 on 189 points, and right now only a further point behind Lane. Mark Senegal a further 3 behind, and the fight for P2 is most definitely on if they can't touch Bader. Billman DaCosta sits P5 at 163 points. The best part of what is there, 7 clear of Glenn Bratton, with Kevin Manning a further 3 behind, and it's Roger Ganesh only a further 12 behind. And indeed, this top 5 right now, in terms of who will be in the top 5 come to the very end, is to be decided today. There's no doubt about it. But it'd be rude not to include Carl Peterson in that conundrum, nor Nick Yakubov, who has improved over the course of the season and finds himself in P10 and in the hunt for where it's a P9 or P8 finish. And then have Ian Hennebury sitting P11 best the rest on the 97 points, with a sizable gap over recent debutant Kurt Smith, who made his debut in round number 6 and in absolutely emphatic fashion. And then Jared Kelly, Jason Seelin, Jesse Jefferson Jr. and Christopher Holliday complete your championship standings. And then we come on to the Teams Championship, and here we can see the complexion is to a degree a bit different. In the fact that Sunday GT Turtles lead the way by what is 17 points over West Coast, Best Coast, and right now these two teams on an absolute knife edge, with Sunday GT Turtles having led the way every round this season. But can they bring home the crown they've been chasing, or will West Coast, Best Coast find one last set of points to overhaul them? ITD West, meanwhile, sit in P3, and they'll be looking to make sure they take that P3 spot and potentially keep the pressure on the top 2, albeit right now it's looking as though they're certain to take P3, with Texas Speed Sim Racing holding on to P4 and 399 ahead of Slipstream Slavs, whose great performances over the course of this season in the AM class have meant they are right now running in P5 and looks certain to be taking that P5 at the end. Bear Pope Zero, meanwhile, continue to chase them in P6, albeit they've got quite a considerable gap to overhaul, with Forever Alone, Alpha and Rich Energy, the two teams there in the battle for P7, separated by a single point, and then Team Bear Pope and Caboose Crew complete your top 10. Meanwhile, only outside the top 10 based on result count back, it's Photon Clan in P11, and Rockefeller Racing Esports Purple ahead of Rockefeller Racing Esports Red complete the team championship standings. And then come onto the Cup Championship stands, and this is for the Far East Cup, only from rounds 5 through to 7 so far, as we look to see who is going to be taking it. Will be the championship crowd here, and Jason Landry only 2 points ahead of Mika Hendricks, and well, Jason Landry second place last time out was the Oran Park circuit. Hendricks meanwhile putting in those absolutely brilliant performances at the start of the Far East Cup in Japan, and it's going to come down to fine margins between these two, with Francois Shink a further 10 points behind, and Jaden Callaway the same, but behind based on result count back. And you can imagine for Shink and Callaway will both want an intervention here, and they'll both be eager to try and swipe the points away from Landry and Hendricks and give themselves the opportunity to take the Cup crown. Logan McKenzie sits in P5 on 96 points, 6 clear of Carl Ranieri, with Edward Offred, Zachary Lovelace and Daniel McConnell completing the standings. And as we come onto the Prime Cup Class Championship here, we see John Lauzon 3 points clear of Matt Best, and these two have run each other every step of the way so far. It has been nip and tuck between the two of them. They're inseparable, and despite best intentions last time out at Oran Park, Lauzon was the one to be able to hold on in the end to take victory. And well, you can imagine right now Lauzon's just got to do it one more time to guarantee himself that championship crown. David Adeyemi meanwhile sits in P3 at 113 points. It's a bit of no man's land in the fact that really he has been the third fastest in the class over the course of the Far East Cup, and he'll be looking to consolidate that P3 ahead of Kevin Clark and Julian Jones, with David Turner further 2 points behind outside the top 5, and then Aaron Lyon and Jermaine Warren complete your championship standings. And then come onto the AM Cup Championship class, and here we can see Nick Bader leads by only 2 points over Tim Chong in the battle between the two drivers, and Kirk Lane a further 8 points behind, and right now Billman DaCosta a further 10 points behind them. It seems like it's the top 3 in particular we need to keep our eyes on today, but remember, Bader's not going to be participating in this round, and therefore really now it becomes the question of will it be Tim Chong or Kirk Lane who takes that crown, with Billman DaCosta an outsider. Nick Yakubov sits in P5 on 74 points, 1 ahead of Glenn Bratton, and Carl Peterson also in the mix there, only behind Bratton based on result count back in P7, with Kevin Manning, Mark Senegal and Roger Ganesh completing your top 10, and Kurt Smith P11 there on 35 points. Well, that's an update on the standings, and let's talk a little bit about our circuit for today. Well, of course, it is the Grand Prix layout of the Phillip Island circuit, located near the town of Ventnor on Phillip Island in the state of Victoria in Australia. And as we can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, thank you to iRacing for their brilliant simulator and the track maps that come as part of it. Indeed, the detail here absolutely fantastic. And as we can see, this circuit consists of 12 corners, and a two-dimensional image doesn't quite describe just how many elevation changes are packed into the lap. But the one key noticeable thing about this circuit when you look at an image of it is the fact the corners are grouped up into sequences, with turns 1 and 2, two very aggressive sweeping corners where it's all about managing throttle control, and it concludes at the run through turn 3, and then we start to see a much lower speed section of the circuit from turn 4 all the way through to turn 8, while drivers have to deal with a hairpin at turn number 4 and then pick up the speed through 5 and 6 before roaring their way uphill to the highest point of the circuit at turn number 9. As they make their way downhill into the second hairpin at turn number 10, it's all about being as late on the brakes as possible there, but also getting ready for the direction change from turn 10 to turn 11, and then sweeping out at turn number 12 to complete lap and do it all over again. And our drivers are going to want to carry as much speed as possible, because this circuit, well, we can't see it on this image, but it's very wide, and therefore too wide. It's not uncommon at every single corner. The only place you can't really go too wide is arguably into turn number 1, but then again, if you're feeling brave, you may just be able to get away with it. But then coming on to our rules for today, we can't go racing without them. Drivers run a fixed setup as provided by the Middle of the Pack Racing League ahead of each and every round, and car fuel loads will be restricted to 33 litres, and that is going to mandate a pit stop for our feature race, at least for fuel. Grid order is going to be set for the feature race based on a class reverse grid, which has been taken based on the latest Drivers' Championship standings, so therefore your championship leaders in each of the classes, this is overall, it should be pointed out. The pros will be started ahead of the primes, and the primes ahead of the AMs, but in each of those grid categories, the championship leader of each class will be starting at the back of their class category, so therefore it will be Jason Landry who starts at the back of the pros, and conversely at the prime class, John Lauzon, and in the AM class, Nick Bader. And will the lowest placed drivers competing in this round will be starting at the front of each class. And they, with the class order considered, the race shall start by a standing grid start, as it's a tradition of the Middle of the Pack Racing League Toyota GR86 Championships, with each driver having 2 fast repairs available, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 15 or more instant points. Now, should we see a major incident at any point during the first 30 minutes minutes of the race. A safety car may be deployed at the discretion of the racing stewards, and a safety car may only be deployed up to 2 times if needed. But as our drivers get set and ready to go, I can tell you one thing, safety car or not, this is going to be a thriller all the way to the end. And as we return to circuit side here, a lot of clouds hanging over the circuit right now, and that could be a sign of some potential rain to come. No rain falling at the moment, but I'm definitely telling you that some drivers right now get very twitchy that we may be seeing rain before the checkered flag today. It is certainly the first time we ever see rain in the middle of the pack racing at League Series, with rain recently being introduced to the iRacing service only what was 2 weeks ago. And with that in mind, it does mean with the Toyota GR86 being eligible for rain on its racing courses, well, right now drivers may have another challenge thrown at them right at the end of the season as we look to your Pro Championship leader, Jason Landry for Sunday GT Turtles, as he makes his way on around. Not the fastest driver out there in this final practice warm-up session. That accolade going to Matt Best, who right now making his way into the pit lane there. The privateer for Texas Speed Sim Racing, just seeing about launching the car for a brief moment out of his pit box. I think just getting himself all dialed in. But definitely the prime driver who's coming strong in the second half of this season and is trying to take the fight to the Lego machine from West Coast, Best Coast of John Lauzon. As right now he is on course potentially to take the overall prime championship and finally seal his first ever middle of the pack racing league title. Indeed, if West Coast, Best Coast to put the results together today, they may also be taking a team's championship title with it, but they've got some hard work to overhaul Sunday GT Turtles. And both Lauzon and also Mika Hendricks will know it's not going to come easy as we look to Hendricks in the pit lane, and well, the number 82 driver right now absolutely itching and ready to go. But as they all get set, and we look here too at Mark Sanil, the Sunday GT Turtles driver, the second fastest AM driver out there currently, with Glenn Bratton being the fastest. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, there's no more time for practice. The checker flag comes out in this final warm-up session. You know what time it is? It is time for our drivers to make the way to the grid, and we have got 45 minutes of racing here at Phillip Island, but who will be our champions? It's time to find out. So as all of our drivers begin to make the way in to their grid positions, it is going to be one of those scenarios whereby everyone right now will be absolutely itched to go racing, but also wary of the fact that we'll be in reverse championship order as they all begin to line up. It's therefore going to require a lot of overtaking if you're a championship leader and contesting that championship. And Jason Landry being the prime example, will be at the back of the pro contingent of the field, and with 8 pro drivers on the grid, he's got 7 of them to pass if he wants to take the win. And what every step of the way, he is going to have obstinance from each and every driver, including Carl Ranieri, last week's winner overall in the pro class. Unfortunately, we can't give you a rundown of the grid due to limitations of the iRacing replay file, but as they all get themselves comfortably set here, we are only moments away from going to the grid as we look further down the order. Glenn Bratton looking very fast in practice. Could this be the day that Bratton picks up his first win of the season? We look to see in the AM classes, we've got just over a minute to go before our drivers will be getting the lights out, away we go signal, but most of our drivers already on the grid as we do look to the blimp camera here. We're an absolutely packed grid of 21 cars, but they're all in position, ladies and gentlemen, and all the lights are going on. And it's lights out and away we go as Edwin Offrer started on pole, launches away from the line, and as he does so, it's going to be Carl Ranieri who looks up the inside immediately. Ranieri getting the better launch up towards turn number 1, and as they make the way down into the opening right-hander, a couple of drivers that opted to start from the pit lane, including Daniel McConnell, I think conscious of the weather, but Carl Ranieri here in a freeway fight. Jalen Callaway looking up the inside, and Callaway going all in, coming from very far back at the start of this race, but right now as they make the way down in towards turn number 2, where it's all going to be here about where Callaway sits. He falls off the circuit, goes a bit wide, catches the car before it hits the gravel trap, but that's not the way the ITD West driver wanted it to go. Meanwhile, running quite wide there, that's none other than the Mario Mobile Kevin Manning that rejoins onto the circuit. He has to do so very carefully. In fact, they make the way on down, and as they head in towards what is turn number 5, we're going into the braking zone for the hairpin at turn number 4, we should say. Let's get our numbers right. Everyone onto the hard and fast anchors now, and Kurt Smith just in front trying to keep his head up. Meanwhile, oh goodness me, it's gone wrong for Kurt Smith as he's knocked round there. The car points in the wrong direction, and it's absolute cataclysmic disaster there for the privateer as he tries to get the car turned, and he does so, but not the way he's wanted this race to start whatsoever. And Kurt Smith being turned into the turn 4 hairpin. A lot of drivers coming into the scene of the incident, picking up damage, but meanwhile those who've not picked up damage, or the field has definitely split now, and as they make the way on through, roaring the way on around, well, Francois Shink continuing his way on the Forever Alone machine as he chases after Edwin Offray, but Carl Ranieri holds on to your lead as meanwhile further behind we do look there to what is Matt Best chasing all after John Lauzon, and Lauzon looking for an opportunity to try and find his way on past where Julian Jones just in front as they make the way through the turn at number 10 hairpin. You can see they're going a little bit deep. It is none other than what is Matt Best, but battling side by side here all the way through with John Lauzon. And remember, Lauzon does not need to beat Best in order to take the championship crown in both the Far East Cup and also overall. All all we need to do is finish one place behind him in order to make sure to take the crowds for himself here. But given the racing spirit, I don't think he's going to want to settle for second. He's going to want to settle for first, and only that. No safety car called with regards to the insert turn before, and as they make the way onwards towards another lap, where it is still Carinieri who leads ahead of Onofre P2, Shink P3, but Shink moves up to P2, they're up the inside of Onofre, in towards turn number 1. It's a sweeping move there from Shink. Now can he seal the deal and close the door as they make the way to turn number 2? Yes he can. So Shink up to P2, Onofre down to P3, Hendricks P4, followed by Landry P5, and then your prime leader David Adeyeye P6 ahead of La, followed by Jones, then Lauzon, then Best who completes your top 10. Then your leading AM driver is Kirk Lane P11, who sits a bit further back with Jaden Callaway trying to pick his way through, and well, the Anfield being separated from the top 10 after the instant that we saw into turn number 4 on the opening lap. And as they make the way down in towards the left hand here of turn number 4, where it's going to with turn number 3 firstly, and then turn number 4 the right hand hairpin. Let's get our quarter numbers right, and as they make the way to the braking zone, with Lane right now fighting hard with Callaway. Understandably, he wants to keep Callaway behind to get extra points, but also to make sure that Callaway fights with Manning. But going wrong there is Kurt Lane. A bit of power oversteer as the traction control not on these cars due to the setup they've been provided, and therefore get a bit too greedy with the throttle pedal. Cold tyres, and Lane goes around and drops all the way to the back of the field. But he's got plenty of races to come. We're only 3 minutes into this 45-minute race, so therefore he can make the recovery time. Lane was looking fast, but he won't be looking to make that mistake again in a hurry, no doubt about it, as he picks up the speed. But as he does so, meanwhile, James Carr, one of the many drivers affected by that incident, as the AlphaTauri Rich Energy driver looks to keep Kevin Clark behind him. And well, the Marionmobile right now sticking close as they make the way through turns 8 and in towards 9, and as they come down the hill in towards turn number 10 very shortly. No sign of a move so far, although you can see there Daniel McConnell taking a little bit of a sneak peek up the inside of Billman DaCosta, almost runs wide and almost sees the car spin out. They're coming into turn number 11 with a quick direction change, and as they make the way on for the left hand, and McConnell's going to seize the opportunity and sneak his way out the inside of the Yam driver. The Pro moves up to P16, but as he comes through to complete this lap. Meanwhile, we look back to your leaders, Ranieri right now under pressure from Shink. Francois Shink all over the back of the race leader as we ride on board here with the P2 at the number 18. So they make the way in towards turn number 2, and Shink at the moment having to think about when he goes to the attack here, given the fact that this circuit, the amount of momentum you carry from corner to corner is just as pivotal as your ability to be bold under braking. And Shink will be aware of that, as indeed all the drivers are. We've seen a lot of momentum-based racing over the course of this season, but right now, really, this is the embodiment of everything our drivers have been practicing round after round. In terms, you've got to be bold under braking, it will make moves count, but you've also got to be ready to carry right amount of speed from corner to corner. And was he makes way to braking at no such move. But meanwhile, Jason Landry making his way past Mika Hendricks off camera, and now looking to do the same versus Edwin Offre as they come out of 4 and in towards turn number 6 they go into the left hand and preceded by the King of 5, and it's going to be Landry out the inside, and Offre not offering too much resistance at this point. I think conscious of the fact he wants to protect the tyres early on in this race and cover live later on. Also perhaps doing some fuel saving here, given the fact they will need to take a pit stop for fuel, and every second of refueling you could save doing is going to gain you plenty of race time if you can stay with the pack, and that's exactly where you want to be, in the middle of the pack, no pun intended, as they make the way on through turn number 8. But as they make the way over the rise and down in towards turn number 10, we're coming on through. Ranieri still under pressure from Shink. You can see the long pack of pros and primes behind. This is the top 10 all together and separated by only 3 seconds nose to the tail of the Serpent as they serpentine their way on through turns 10 and 11 and down towards turn number 12 they go. And as they do so, with Julian Jones right now in a new livery for this season finale, the ITD West driver all over the back of Aaron Lahr as they make the way on towards the timeline. But meanwhile, Ranieri under pressure here from where it's Francois Shink. Shink looking for the move this time as they head down towards turn 1. It's going to be Shink on the outside into turn 1. Ranieri meanwhile holding the inside line now. I think feeling confident he may just be able to pressure or be Shink into an error or get him to outbrake himself into the corner. It's more of a lift off and just downshift rather than any braking action. But the point being around here, you don't want to carry too much speed, as otherwise you're going to run wide. We saw exactly what happens if you go off at any of these corners. You're going to fall a very long way away from the circuit. But meanwhile, Edwin Offre goes deep at turn 2, catches the car in time, but it's going to enable Mika Hendricks to move up the inside. And David Adeyeye says, can I play too? But I think right now Offre is going to be too wide with him as they come in towards turn number 3. Going for a left-hander and in towards the hairpin they come, and as they do, pedal to the metal between these two drivers, but Onofre does fall back in behind Adeyeye, and I wonder here if Onofre is really playing the conservative game of where you just simply stick with the pack, don't fight anyone, because of the fact fighting is only going to cost you time, and potentially see this top 10 separate rather dramatically indeed, as they make the way in towards turn number 6 off camera. We can see that Kurt Smith is on the recovery drive and has found his way past Billman DaCosta for P18, or what is P5 in the AM class. Remember, points to score first and foremost based on the overall finishing position, and then there are bonus bonus points for the prime and podiums, 3 for first, 2 for second and 1 for third. So therefore those drivers have a little bit more of an incentive to make sure they're on the podium of their class, not just getting overall places. But Jason Landry looks up the inside here of Francois Shink in towards turn number 9. Over the rise he goes and down into turn 10, and Landry makes another move count. As me on the rear of the picture, that's John Lauzon is under major pressure. It's Matt Best roars his way under braking up the inside of Lauzon, and goodness me, right now the Texas Speed Sim Racing driver, he's not holding back at all, and John Lauzon is proven to be absolutely infuriating as they make the way in towards turn number 12. He just does not seem to wilt under pressure whatsoever, and that is how much this means to Lauzon right now. Given the bad luck he's had in previous seasons racing, he doesn't want any bad luck. I think he's going to take the logic, I either win out of the two of us or we both end up in the grass. And well, to be fair, it does give me a bit of a feeling of a centre-cross rivalry if we look back to our old Formula 1 days. And right now Lauzon and Best were very friendly off the circuit. I tell you, on the circuit, these two holding nothing back as they head into turn number 1. But look at that gap, it's put them to the rest of the top 8 now. In fact, it's already put over what is 1.5 seconds between them, and Best is throwing everything at this. Meanwhile, looking back down the order, let's not forget we've got drivers outside the top 10. Well, Kevin Manning right now battling with Mark Senegal. This is for the lead of the AM class of P12. Senegal defend on the inside but goes deep. Manning follows him, and through goes Daniel McConnell, and Manning is turned around from contact there. I believe Cole Peterson potentially coming into the rear of Manning for Fotan Klein, and as a result that's gone very, very well for Kevin Manning. And what it seems as though if your name begins with a K today, the Phillip Island circuit is not going to like you whatsoever, because it's gone wrong for Kurt Smith, it's gone wrong for Kurt Klein, and now it's gone wrong for Kevin Manning. Meanwhile, Glenn Bratton, in all of the confusion, has moved up into the lead of the AM class, following on through Daniel McConnell, and Mark Senegal is just behind him now as they make the way in towards turn number 6. But as they do so, the batting between these drivers, it calms down for a brief moment. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of it before the day is said and done as they make the way out of turn at number 6 once again. Meanwhile, looking back to your leaders, it's Jason Landry out the inside of Carl Ranieri through turn number 9, but they're going downhill into 10. Remember, Ranieri's going to have the inside run now into the hairpin, too wide they go into the corner. Landry trying to abuse the camber of the corner there in order to hold on, and as he does so, now takes the inside of turn number 11, and Landry absolutely determined to take. Oh goodness me, it's got rolled between Landry and Wes Ranieri as Landry is turned across the front, and as he does so, bringing it back together, it's gone wrong for Jason Landry, and well, now Francois Shink takes the lead in this race. Also Ranieri, they're picking up some damage, dropping down to P7, but very close racing between the two. Neither driver wanted to give up, and the two drivers you normally associate as friends on circuit will definitely get it right now. Their friendship may have just taken a small speed bump in the road as Francois Shink meanwhile now takes the lead in this race, and well, he's been looking for this lead for some time, but will he be able to hold on to it? That's the question all the way through to the very end, given the fact we're not even 10 minutes into this race and already we have seen giants fall, and we have seen quite a few battles that have not gone the way drivers have wanted to, but those who are holding on right now, they've got a way to go as the wipers are going on there for Mika Hendricks. Is that a sign of some rain? I don't think so at the moment. I think he might be expecting some rain. The clouds are gathering over the circuit as they make the way down in towards turn at number 4. I think Hendricks taking a little bit of a full process there. Does he want to go for it now or not? Decides not to as we're looking back from the race leader, and as they come out of turn at number 4 up towards 6, it's going to be Hendricks who stays close with David Adeyi, the prime leader, just behind him in P3 overall. And Adeyi right now enjoying one of his finest races so far and just simply staying out of trouble, and that's exactly what you need to do in the early stage of these extended feature races. But meanwhile, as we look further down the order, this is Kurt Smith battling with Kevin Clark, the Merriman-Mobile, the prime driver, on was the inside run now in towards turns 5 and 6. Meanwhile, Smith on the outside and going all in for the move. It's a smooth move from the third place AM driver to take P15 overall, but can he convert it into the finishing position as they make the way onto the 4 and 20 board, and up the rise they go towards the highest point of the circuit, still side by side as they make the way in towards turn number 8. They do so, and Smith does take the position, and as he heads over the rise now, it is going to be Clark who tucks back in 9. That inside line is not going to give him any benefit as he sweeps his way to the highest point, and now down into the plunge they go. And as they do, behind you can see Billman DaCosta's now got James D. Carter to worry about, but Kurt Klein closing in as well. But Kurt Smith sticking his feet in the ground and saying no further for you, Clark, as they make the way on through turn number 11. But as they make the way on around to go on to the next lap, meanwhile we do look back to your race leaders, and Will Shink still leads, but further back in this top 8 we do have in P3 David Adeyi, the lead prime driver right now, with Aaron Lahr right behind him, and Lahr keeping that pressure on as they make the way on through turn at number 2. And well, the lime green machine, he has had some quiet races this season, but right now he's having another one where he's just simply picking up the places at the expense of other drivers, and who can blame him? He's driving it smart, and that's exactly what he needs to do as he makes his way in towards turn at number 3. As we ride on board a look down over the front of the privateer machine. Running into the braking zone for turn number 4, and does he look for the move in? No, he doesn't. I think he's just going to simply wait and bide his time. Know that any fighting, much like we've seen earlier, is going to be very costly, or it does run the risk of the new rival going into what is the grass, if not the barrier, as we saw for what was Landry and Ranieri only a couple of laps ago. As they power their way out of turn number 6, this is also going to make the question of pit stops intriguing, in the fact it does seem as though running in a pack of cars here is going to be beneficial to your overall race time, by the best part of what will be a couple of attempts a lap. So therefore, do you pit early and essentially end up in a position whereby you've got plenty of clear air, but you're not gaining anything in the major acceleration zones in the straight, or do you make up that time elsewhere by simply pitting with the pack and saving fuel in the meantime? And that's the question only our drivers can decide as they all cut their way as close as possible to the apex of turn number 10. Indeed, you see where some of the grass has been worn away while drivers are trying to cut the curb, but cut it too much and they'll be subject to a slowdown penalty at the back swim, or at least an off-track point as a minimum. If they pick up too many of those, it's going to be a drive-through penalty, and that's going to end their racing aspirations, no doubt about it. As they make their way onto another lap, roaring their way onto what is now lap number 8 of racing here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Francois Shink still holding on at the front, being pushed on by Mika Hendricks here. And well, these two, no strangers to racing one another. They've raced in many a series in the past, including what is at the Alpha Touring Challenge and also the middle of that racing leagues. Well, right now as they head through turn number 1 in towards turn number 2, I think Hendricks just trying to push Shink along and trying to get the two of them to break away from the rest of the pack, but that's not going to be possible. And you've got David Adeyi just sitting there waiting and watching. But meanwhile, further down the order, we can see here Jason Landry, P10 currently on a recovery drive after the contact with Ranieri at turn number 11, and looking for the run after Matt Best, but he's got Jaden Callaway for company behind him, but the ITD West driver staying close behind but not looking for an opportunity right now to go on the offensive. Meanwhile, speaking of going on the offensive, this is Hendricks around the outside of Shink into turn number 4, and as he makes out the corner, Hendricks is going to make that move count. Brilliant move there from Hendricks, and we'll now in towards turn number 6 they go. We have a new race leader, and the West Coast Best Coast team right now looking to pick up some major points, and well, this could be the day where they overhaul Sunday GT Turtles. If things finish as they currently stand, I do believe they'll just about do it. West Coast, Best Coast, they'll just have enough points in the bag to make this happen, although Lowson will want to gain a couple more places before this race is said and done if he wants to make that dream for the team a reality. As they make their way on through turn number 9 over the crest and down to turn number 10. Well, right now Hendricks, 9, David Adeyi is getting closer and closer to the back of Shink. He'll try and back Shink into Adeyi, and that'll buy him some time to run away, and that's the problem with being the lead driver here. You can't really fuel save as much compared to your rivals. You can short shift and lift and goes, but the problem is if you slow the race pace too much down, then you end up with rivals behind who get very eager and they'll want to try and get on through and then break away from you. You can be swamped. You can lose not just 1 but perhaps 3, 4, 5 places in the space of 1 or 2 quarters just by being swamped by drivers who feel as though the race pace should be higher, but they're also keen to fuel save at the same time as you are. As they make their way in towards turn number 1, Jason Landry's into the pits already, so Landry opting to pit. As you can see there, the speed gain from Shink as they make their way in towards turn number 1, and well, that is the toe as they wind their way through the sweeping right-hander. Hendricks going a little bit wide there, almost running into the grass. He takes the entry curve at turn number 2. Well, Jason Landry in the pits, car being serviced, and well, I'll tell you right now, with the car being serviced this early, he's going for a huge undercut on the field, but is that going to work to his advantage given the fact he's very likely to come out in clear air? Well, if Landry is going for this, it's a gamble, and it may not be a gamble that pays off here with regards to the Far East Cup, although I suspect as long as he finishes this race today, he will be taking home the overall Drivers' Championship. But meanwhile, Julian Jones coming in like a missile there to the inside versus Aaron Lahr into turn number 4, but can't quite find the move. Has to stay in P5 for now, P3 in the Prime class, behind his Prime rival just in front of him. And right now Jones, I think the patience is starting to wear a little bit thin, and he's just trying to get to the head of his rivals as Hendricks goes wide out turn number 6, rejoins, but that's going to be Shink who comes on through, and with Adeyi now makes it 3 wide for a brief moment as they head in towards turn 7, but as they come through the right-hander and over the crest they go through turns 8 to 9. Right now Hendricks loses out, Shink takes the lead this race, and Adeyi moves up into P2, and well, could we see a Prime driver take the overall win today? Indeed, they come very few and far between. The last time we saw a Prime take an overall win, well, that was all the way back in the days of Ilya Speaker at Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. From 3 wide into the apex, there's drama plenty. Matt Best has gone round at turn number 10, but meanwhile 3 wide there, John Low's on the end, still holds on, but that was Edwin Offer and Carl Ranieri all coming in blazing hard. I'm not quite sure what triggered off Matt Best, whether it was a mistake of his own volition or there was some contact that set that up, but the outcome is the Best has fallen a long way back, and Low's on right now, moves up into P6 through all of the cacophony of absolutely intense racing between them, and right now the Canadian driver He's pushing onwards, 1.1 seconds behind Julian Jones. I think he'll be feeling confident that right now is an opportunity to take the play and win here and absolutely seal the deal in the best possible style and taking his cake and eating it along the way. But as Daniel McConnell makes his way in to the pits, well, right now McConnell coming on down pit lane, and as he does so, meanwhile making their way past pit lane, they're not coming in yet with Kurt Smith also in, Phil DaCosta and what is Kirk Lane as they fight for P3 in the AM class. Well, in fact, it is going to be P4 in class initially, but with strategy coming in, that moves into the battle for P3, and Lane holding off DaCosta right now, given the fact they're both racing for Team Bear Pope, one for Bear Pope 0 and one for his Team Bear Pope. It does mean they don't want to hurt each other too much, as whilst the sister teams are in a rivalry in the team's championship, they've also got the bigger picture to consider, which is they want both teams to do as well as each other. Well, there is a mistake from Kurt Lane, goes very deep into turn 2. DaCosta's not close enough to really seize upon it. He gets back in the tow. I think he'll be hoping he can get a little bit closer next time around as they make their way in towards turn number 4 on the long run. Well, right now these two are trying to work together as meanwhile Mark Senegal continues to have what is Glenn Bratton right behind him, your AM lead of Sunday GT Turtles. He'll be feeling as though things are starting to go his way little by little. We're only a third of the way through this race. We've still got the best part of half an hour plus the final lap to go. And as our drivers make the way on around here, we can see some of the damage on Glenn Bratton's front bumper from earlier contacts where the bumper has crumpled in slightly over the front radiator. And as they make the way on through turn to 8 and in towards 9. Well, right now, Senegal holding on to this AM lead, but only 2.5 attempts between himself and Bratton. I think Bratton at this point waiting for an opportunity to try and go all in for the AM lead and potentially his first ever AM win. Come for return, number 10 Senegal is going to prove a tough opponent. He's not going to want to let this go whatsoever as Carl Ranieri and Matt Best both into the pit lane as well up the road. Meanwhile, speaking at the very front of the road, here's David Adeyemi looking up the inside of Francois Shink for the lead of this race. He's going all in for it into turn 1, and he does exactly that as the privateer for ITD West as he heads on through turn 1 in towards turn 2. Aaron Last sits behind him, the lime green machine behind Shink, waiting for that opportunity. More drivers into pits. Ranieri also is Callaway, also Senegal and Bratton. Some more and more drivers opting to take the pit stop, and well, this could mean that perhaps with that everyone's seen the opportunity to pit sooner rather than later. But here comes Shink looking back up the inside into turn 3. He'll put him on the outside for 4, and he's not going to mind this too much given the fact he has the wider circumference for the initial left-hander, but now just be able to slot back in if he so chooses to. He does exactly that and falls back to P2. I think a message being sent there from David Adeyemi, which is not just part of the furniture to take a prime win, he'd also like to take the overall win if possible. And Francois Shink now will need to step the tempo up in order to make sure he can hold on to that lead before he takes his pit stop. But then again, with all the pit stops playing out, it'll be interesting to see where the field starts to slot back together. Given the fact, as you can see on the circuit map in the top right corner of your screen, the field is starting to split out with strategy taking a major effect, and therefore all our drivers right now will be asking the question, have I done the right thing on strategy? As Mark Senegal goes deep at turn number 2, let's Daniel McConnell go for Texas Speed Sim Racing. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sunday GT Turtles driver tries to come back at him here. Given McConnell's had a pretty slow run out of turn number 2. Side by side they go in towards turn 3. This is going to cost them time, and it's not time they can afford given their respective strategies. But still, Senegal is going to go for it as Bill DaCosta's found his way ahead of Kirk Lane in the battle for the AM lead further up the road. But McConnell on the inside here into turn number 4. He will hold the position of P16, but this fighting is costing them the best part of half a second that one corner alone, and that could prove costly in the bigger picture. But meanwhile, look back to your race leaders as they continue their way out there and out onto what is lap number 12 here with 20 minutes complete as they head through turn number 1. And David Adeyemi's got the pressure of Aaron Lahr, who's looking around the outside. Lahr trying to go for the lead of the prime class here with Jones just behind as they make their way through turn 1. And Lahr sweeps up for it to take the lead. And Will Jones right now eager to try and make a move here on Adeyemi, but will he be able to find one? I don't think he will as we ride on board with the third place prime driver, P4 overall. And a better run off the turn number 2. You'll notice that the amount of speed he's carried as the ITD West driver chases after his teammate as they head in towards turn number 4. Well, now it's the question of does he work with his teammate or do they fight each other a little bit? And I suspect it'll be the former rather than the latter for the time being, given the fact they'll only want to have the gloves come off right at the end of the racing. But Jones looking up the inside and he leaves the door open. There's Hendricks coming up the inside. It's free wide into turn number 4, and Hendricks coming out of nowhere, but he's definitely there now as they make the way on for it to turn number 6. And here comes Lauzon as well. Lauzon looking for the move around the outside versus Adeyemi, but backs out of it there. 9, that is no opportunity. He's only going to make life more miserable for himself in the run up the hill as he's chased by Edwin Novre, the third place pro driver right now, watching and waiting in the wings. And was Lauzon follows on through, going on through turn number 8 towards 9. It does look as though Lauzon absolutely primed and ready to pounce Nadi, but when can he find the move? That's going to be the question for the 177 driver. In fact, the pressure is arguably off with Matt Best down in P11 currently, but then again, he won't want to let the pressure off for the simple reason he won't want to take anything for granted until that final checkered flag. So if he makes any errors at any point during the race, those could be just as costly as the error that was for Matt Best earlier on. As they head through turn number 11 in towards 12, all of these drivers, all the top 7 still staying out, staying in the pack of what is 2.2 seconds from race leader Shink through to an offer in P7. No sign of anybody fading to the pit lane yet. And I think all of these drivers right now wanted to go for the overcut and just simply fighting on. But every corner they battle, every lap they fight, it's only going to cost them more and more time compared to their rivals. But is it time that's costly compared to the time their rivals lose by not being in the tow? That is the big question, which you can get it right, and guessing you may just win the lottery here. As Aaron Lahr holds on to her lead with Francois Shink trying to poke his way back into the aforementioned position. Will mean while Julian Jones and Meek Hendricks side by side coming out of turn number 2. Jones on the inside run for 3. It'll be the outside for 4. Hendricks has got the wider run. That's going to give him a couple of miles now more speed than the long haul plus the tow over the back of Shink, and therefore Jones backing out here as they head in towards turn number 4 for what's the 13th time of asking. Everyone at line of stern, you can see Lauzon looking up the inside, going all in under braking versus David Adeyeye. He goes all in, does the Canadian driver, and gets it done for now. And the West Coast Best Coast driver's claimed one scalp. He's going to try and claim another as he looks around the outside into turn 6 versus one is there Jones, but in doing so Adeyeye sneaks his way back at the inside and says 2 can play that game, and that's going to be 2 wide on the run up the hill in towards turn number 9. As we look to the blimp camera in the distant camera shot, you can see these drivers all jostling their way on the long run up the hill towards the highest point of the circuit, and as they make their way in towards turn number 9, falling back into line of stern for a brief moment. But from them we'll look a bit further down the order, and this is where we're looking at Mark Senegal and what is Daniel McConnell as they make their way out turn number 2. Such is the delta that's created by pit stops here at the Phillip Island circuit. And was the Sunday GT Turtles driver follows McConnell. I get the feeling that McConnell and Senegal have agreed their differences, and they've decided it's going to be the Texas Speed Sim Racing driver in the Pro class who leads the 2 of them around, and this could be highly beneficial for the 3rd place AM driver, because the only drivers in front of him in the AM class are drivers who have yet to pit, and they are Billman DaCosta and Kevin Manning. And will Mark Senegal right now, I think, will have his head down and just be hoping that they can close the gap. But meanwhile, speaking of minding that gap, there's plenty of gap there between Shink and Lahr as Shink retakes the lead of this race over the halfway point. We still got the best part of 22.5 minutes to go here before that final checkered flag, and Francois Shink making his way on through turn number 2. But as he does so, coming on through the sweeping left-hander with Lahr, Hendricks, Jones, Lauzon, Adeyeye and an offer still with him. Well, meanwhile, Billman DaCosta is into the pit lane from what was P8, the AM leader, finally taking his pit stop for today. And what I do suspect we might see some more pit stops shortly. The fuel tanks normally lasting up to 30 minutes. They don't last too long beyond the halfway point. Indeed, this race is split around the halfway section, albeit with a little bit of flexibility on strategy. But as we do see Aaron Lahr making his way up the inside there versus Shink once again, being a bit disruptive here is Aaron Lahr, the privateer, will indeed try and look for that lead position, but every time they fight it's going to cost them time. And well, speaking of the battle between Mark Senegal and Billman DaCosta, Senegal was moved up to P2 in the AM class. It's going to be DaCosta, who's just recently started to leave the pit lane, so therefore he's going to be coming out just in front of, I do believe, Kurt Smith off camera. And in fact, speaking of that battle, here is Kurt Smith, who pitted much earlier. He cuts his way around the inside into turn 1 of versus Billman DaCosta, who looks static by comparison given the short pit lane exit compared to the run that Smith's had at the final corner. And Kurt Smith makes his way through, and that's a critical pass for the privateer. He moves up into P3 in the AM class, and the strategy has played out well. And now he's got 9 seconds to Mark Senegal in front of him, and Kevin Manning is still yet to pit. And can Smith find P2 in the AM class through strategy? That'll be the question he'll now be hoping. The answer is yes, as he makes his way into turn 3. As he comes on through and in towards turn number 4 at the hairpin, Kirkland and Billman DaCosta back together, practically inseparable, much like they were before the pit stop. So no change between the 2 drivers, albeit it does look as though DaCosta going a bit slowly through turn 4 and Lane able to get closer. Will mean while our leaders continue to make their way on through, not coming into the pits, any of them at the moment, all deciding to stay out there. And I think in doing so here all right now, just waiting for the first driver in the group to flinch, and they're all coming together. It wouldn't surprise me. But meanwhile, Lane versus DaCosta, we look back to that battle for his P4 in the AM class or P17 overall, and it is Lane who takes the position there. I think the 2 drivers opt in to swap the places in order to gain time versus Smith in front of them, who's only 2 seconds up the road. And I think Lane feels as though he's got the better pace here to be able to mount that challenge, and he can bring DaCosta along for him with the ride as they make their way through turn number 10 in towards 11. One of our drivers here right now also chasing after Daniel McConnell and Mark Senegal with, what was it, McConnell having a mistake a little bit earlier on in this lap, coming through turn number 4, and that enabled Senegal to get alongside, but in the end the Sunday Duty Turtles try to tuck it back in behind again. You can see the overspeed being gained there in the toe, the best part of half a second being stripped out of McConnell's time just from the slipstream that has been afforded to Senegal. But as they make their way up through turn 1 in towards 2, it's going to be Sunday GT Turtles driver who opts to stay behind once again. But as they make their way in towards turn 2, we look to the chat and we do say hello to Mark Senegal, who's tuning in on YouTube. And well, fantastic racing so far from everyone, yourself included, Mark. We're looking forward to plenty more as this race comes to a close, as Francois Shink almost loses it, but meanwhile Julian Jones does, and Jones goes round on the exit of turn number 10 there. All of our drivers all following each other in a parallel fashion on the exit curve in a turn number 10, but in the end Julian Jones just loses the rear of the car, and that is a mistake that puts him well out of contention for the lead pack. But how can he get back into it now, given the fact the race leaders still carry on? Nobody makes their way into the pit lane, and what another driver falls as Jones makes his way into the pits, recognising now he's got to go to plan B, whatever it may be. But as we do see Aaron Lahr and Francois Shink battling side by side into turn 1, which is going to be Lahr sweeping around the outside this time, retakes the lead, the prime driver, head of the pro, and Mika Hendricks only was 4 tenths behind. John Lauzon and David Adeyemi inseparable, glued together in the fight for P4, but Lauzon going slightly deep. That's going to enable Adeyemi to get up the inside here as they exit the corner. But as they come down towards turn number 4, the question will be now between these two: will they fight, or will they opt to just calm it down and respect the fact they don't want to let the top 3 go? And I think you're starting to see the answer there in the fact that Adeyemi stay on the outside line, giving Lauzon the opportunity. But meanwhile, as they make their way under braking with Hendricks just in front, Lauzon eager to stay behind his teammate, eager to take the toe, and an off-rear in the wings, a second behind. And as we can see here, the privateer right now falling a bit further back corner to corner, but I think also just measuring his race and continuing to save some fuel in this group as they make their way over the crest of turn number 9 in due course. So meanwhile, we have had a driver towed to the pits. That's been in the form of Daniel McConnell, and well, due to an incident on what was the previous lap for Daniel McConnell, it's costed very dear. And we also do have confirmation we have one retirement so far from this race, and that is James Carr, who retired at come at midway through lap number 12 due to an incident which has picked up too much damage on the car and they can't get it repaired. So one retirement. We've got one drone in the pits currently right now being repaired, and well, as our leaders make their way over the crest of turn number 11, we're still waiting to see when they're going to come into the pit lane and take that important one and only pit stop. As meanwhile, Francois Shink comes in, so does Hendricks, so does Lauzon, so does Adeyemi, and so does Onofre. But meanwhile, Aaron Lahr stays out for another lap. Now, has he pushed it too far? I mean, the fuel saving he must have done to be able to carry on with regards to another lap. This is a demonstration of what Aaron Lahr's brought to the table in this race, but the problem now is in the fact he's running in clear air. But is this clear air going to be beneficial to him? He's got nobody in front, nobody behind. He's got no pressure other than the pressure he puts on himself right now to deliver what's going to effectively be a qualify lap, on the basis he'll very likely be coming into the pits after this lap. But if he gets it right here, Aaron Lahr could have just bought himself a huge amount of time. And well, Kevin Clark comes across the line. He has yet to take his pit stop, so therefore he's out of position, but P2. But as our leaders leave the pit lane, Francois Shink leads the pack out the pits, head of Mika Hendricks and David Adeyemi, John Lauzon, Edwin Onofre. That's how they're ordered. Carl Ranieri, meanwhile, closing up gradually, and he does so, meanwhile, just behind Julian Jones, battling here with Matt Best after his pit stop, coming out just ahead of Texas Speed Sim Racing driver, and that is not going to help what is Best at all. In fact, Jones right now in a bit of a knife fight here with his rival from the other team as they make their way in towards turn number 2. They're behind Glenn Bratton, who's a lap down, who will have blue flags waved at him in due course. And when Miss Weiser, Bratton steps aside shortly, coming out of 2 and into 3, and doing exactly that here as he lifts off the throttle, most likely on the run in towards the left-hander. As they come through the left-hander at turn number 3, well, Jones and Best right now really fighting to be the best of the prime class behind John Lauzon, given the fact Lauzon does sit a comfortable what is in front of them of 7 seconds, and their pace right now will not see them close up any time soon. But meanwhile, behind Jaden Callaway, all over the back of Jason Landry as we jump on board, where he's looking down over the front of Callaway's car. And as they make their way in towards turn number 6, the ITD West driver coming on through the left-hander here, where he's going to be chasing and absolutely hounding Landry. And well, if results finish as they currently stand, Jason Landry would still become your overall drivers champion in the pro class, but he would lose the Far East Cup to Mika Hendricks, who would take it with that P4 finish as they make the way up the rise and in towards turn number 8. What is the 17th time of asking? Aaron Lahr is into the pits, it should be pointed out, and that's going to be the big strategic gamble for Lahr, who was on Kevin Clark into the pits. But as we go from right on board here in the battle between Callaway and what is Landry, well, let's take a look to where Lahr is. He starts to make his way out of the pit lane, look into the blimp camera, and there you can see at the top of your screen, that is the rest of the lead pack. They're speeding their way down the start finish straight, but Aaron Lahr now starts to get up to speed. It's a long run to turn number 1. He's going to take an eternity to get there, and he's going to be wheeling the car on, and in the end, the gap is going to be the best part of what is 1.2 seconds. They make their way through turn 1 in towards turn 2. Lahr's not been able to get the full jump here on the rest of the pack, so he is going to fall back into it unless Shink, Hendricks and Adi fight one another. And in fact, that's going to be a mistake from Francois Shink. Let's see him take a brief trip to the grass. He recovers the car in time before it goes to the gravel trap, but the point is Francois Shink will cost the error. Now releases Mika Hendricks into P2 and Adi up to P3, and Shink right now losing the pro lead and what could be a very costly time with John Lauzon and Edwin Offred behind him. But if Aaron Lahr can stay clear of Hendricks and Adi or get them to fight, then Aaron Lahr could be bringing home the overall win, and with it his first Pro-Am win of the season as they make the way up towards turn number 6. But still, we've got the best part of 14 minutes of racing remaining, and there's battles still to be decided everywhere out of the circuit as our drivers continue to charge their way on around. And will Jaden Callaway right now all over the back of Jason Landry still for the final spot inside the overall top 10, eager to try and make an impression here. But the ITD West driver, I think right now experiencing what is that challenge of the fact you've got a very fast driver in front of you, and as much as the toe benefits for you, you just can't find a way to get under the driver's skin, given the fact the pace is bringing to the tail is enough to offset the slipstream you gain on where's the straights, or the curve straights if you will. But Callaway's not going to give up until the very end, there's no doubt about it. And meanwhile, Matt Best just in front of Julian Jones a little bit further up the road. These two right now, knowing they're really fighting for the second place spot in the Pro-Am Championship at this point in time and in the Far East Cup. And will Best still keeping Jones behind just for now. But Jones right there and waiting to attack. As meanwhile, your Pro-Am third place driver and your currently provisional Pro-Am champion, subject to how the results go at the end, if things don't stay as they currently are, will John Lauzon continue to charge on as they make their way on towards another lap. New fastest lap race set by Mika Hendricks, a 45.347, and will Hendricks right now absolutely flying. And speaking of flying, well, here is Aaron Lahr, Hendricks and Adi. You can see just how much Hendricks has closed up, and well, it's not going to be long here before a move's attempted by Hendricks as they make the way out to turn at number 2 and onwards towards turn at number 4 they go. Kevin Manning's just taken his one pit stop for today, should be pointed out. Kevin Manning going the longest of everybody on his fuel tank, and as Lahr makes his way down towards turn at number 4, it's going to be Hendricks who looks around the outside, and was a bold move from Hendricks, but he's going to commit to it to get the inside of turn number 6, but Lahr says no, and the two drivers come together, and Lahr's into the barrier there briefly, rejoins the car, almost rubber banding its way off the barrier, and as he brings it back together, right now the privateer going from the leaders race all the way down to P6, down to P7 as currently goes on the outside, and the damage is too much for the car. You can see there the car sweeping around that raised curve at turn number 6, and Aaron Lahr's race has gone from good to bad to nightmare in the space of only 3 corners, and with the 147 tray you've got to feel for him right now. But then again, it's going to be the big question of what happens now as David Adeyemi leads the race with Mika Hendricks right behind, and Hendricks, well, he's got a bruised car, but I don't think he'll be broken, and I think he'll be looking to try and take on David Adeyemi, the privateer, who'll be eager to try and bring home the Pro-Am win, but also be looking to try and bring home what will be an overall win, and he would be the only Pro-Am driver this season to do so. And well, can he make what would be a dream a reality here with only 11 minutes to go? Well, there's only going to be the best part with 7 laps in that space as they go on to another one. Well, only time will tell as the clouds continue to get darker and darker over the circuit. It is looking very ominous here in the commentary booth, ladies and gentlemen. I can tell you that, but if there's any signs of rain, they haven't formulated just yet, just the clouds. And well, as we do see here, the battle for its P3 between Shink, Lauzon and Offred tear its way through turn at number 1. All 3 drivers here absolutely pushing on, and Offred going a bit deep, trying to carry too much speed there into turn 1, but such is the gravitas which he's attacking this lap. Meanwhile, it's going to be Eddie, he's gone deep at turn 2, and Mika Hendricks takes lead this race, and it's just going to run right now as he tries to break away. Gap already up to 1.5 seconds as they make their way through turn number 3. And Mika Hendricks right now may have just bought himself the lead as they make their way onwards towards the turn 4 hairpin. But as they do, Francois Shink immediately looking up the inside there of Adi, who's fallen all out of sorts of places. He's now got John Lauzon looking up the inside, and well, it's a dramatic twist as we ride on board, looking back from the rear of the prime leader, the privateer, defending hard into turn 6. Lauzon right now 9. He doesn't need to win this race. All he needs to do is finish at this point where he is, and he will take both the Far East Cup and also what is the overall Prime Drivers' Championship crown. But the thing for Lauzon is he'll want to try and clear Adi. He'd love to end it all on what would be a class win and an overall podium. But as they make the way up the hill with Wes Edwin off very close behind as well, Lauzon's got to his time. He's got so much to lose at this point, and does he want to risk it all right at the end of the season, as it's a season which has gone his way? But as they make the way through turn number 10, only he could be the decider of that. But from then we look back to Kirk Lane battling with Kurt Smith, and also Bill DaCosta with Kurt Smith recently making his way past at turn number 4, and that was a P2 in the AM class, what P14 overall for Kurt Smith as Lane continues to chase. Behind them, Bill DaCosta also watching and waiting in the wings, but they are all the best part of what is now 9 seconds, almost 10 seconds behind Mark Senegal, the AM leader for Sunday GT Turtles, who is just holding on to that lead and comfortably extending it lap after lap, and a very solid race being run by him off camera. And again, with the fact he's in a very comfortable lead, that's why he's not getting too much camera time, albeit the sponsor and the car won't be too pleased with that. But meanwhile, we look here to Aaron Lahr, who's been given a bit of a push there along the start finish straight by Jalen Calloway, who wants him to go hunting after Jason Landry, who's in P9 just in front up the road. But meanwhile, we've had a spin, I do believe, for David Adi at turn number 2. He's gone round on the apex curve there, and that, as we look to the aftermath of the incident, has dropped it down to P6. So John Lauzon now leads the Prime class. We don't know if that was assisted or his own volition. We can only see the conclusion. And well, as Adi brings the car back together, it's going to be a frustrating moment in the race, either way, for the simple reason he's holding his P2 in the Prime class, but behind him he's now got Best and Jones, and they are within 2 seconds of him. Say, well, he's starting to get distant toes. He's swinging sideways. They're coming out of turn number 4. The power oversteer there on the corner, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tyre Life is now starting to become a bit of a premium on these Toyotas, given the fact the amount of wear they'll be putting through what will be at the right-hand side tyres in particular. What with this circuit being anti-clockwise, there's more left-hand corners than right, and a lot of heavy load corners here, such as turns 2, also what is turn at number 9 and 11 and 12, and those are right inside tyres, particularly that rear right, will be wearing down very aggressively on power application time and time again. If you haven't got that tyre life available, you run out of inherent grip, and that is where the mistakes can come very easily. But meanwhile, we look back to Lane, who chases after Smith as we jump on board with where's the Bear Post Zero drives, makes his way on through turn number 6, and still looking for an opportunity, still trying to knock down the defence of Smith as they make the way on through turn number 7 into 8 at this point in time. But the Bear Pope Zero driver 9 is going to be much easier said than done. He's getting close here towards turn number 9. You can see Smith thinking out going defensive. Does he actually need to is the question. In the end decides not to, and Lane all over his back looking to carry the speed over the rise now to the inside of turn 10, but understeer creeps in. Lane has to catch the car before it goes too wide, and indeed whilst the inside line is viable at turn number 10, the braking line you have to take is a much earlier one compared to outside line, because you haven't got the natural camber of the corner. You're in a bigger depression on that inside line, and that's exactly why Lane, you saw there, back off and tuck back in behind Smith rather than look to go for an adventurous move under brake, because he wasn't close enough in order to be able to offset the short braking distance. As they make lines on start for the straight, an excellent run out of turn number 12. This is going to be a drag race now. On towards turn number 1, side by side they go, and as they do so, heading in towards the right-hander, will Lane be able to make the move, or will Smith still hold on as they come down onto the brakes? Well, here they go, side by side into the corner. It's going to be door to door here. A little bit of a rub there, as it's going to be Smith who drops off the apex curve, but Lane's still on the outside now to the inside of turn number 2. And as they come for a left-hander, well, you can see there, Smith going a little bit deep, a bit of oversteer creeping in as he turns the car through the lane, now gets a nose ahead, but he can't get the throttle down as aggressively as he'd like, but he does get ahead of Smith. Meanwhile, Billman DaCosta looks for the move up the inside to turn 3. It's going to be Smith who says, no, you don't. And as they make the way in towards turn 4, it's now going to be the question of will Smith look for the counter-attack here. He thinks about it, he ducks back and he thinks about it again. He goes, it's late on the brakes here. Smith weaving under brake in the car, literally on the edge of adhesion. Meanwhile, Lane gives him the space to play with. 2 wide as they exit the corner, up towards turn 6 they go. Into left-hander, Lane still there, not giving in. The Bear Pope Zero driver knows if he can't beat Mark Senegal, he'll take P2. And as they make their way out of the corner, still 2 wide as they head up the hill. And right now, neither driver wanted to give in. They've both had difficulty in the early stage of this race, but right now they're enjoying some of the finest racing they've had all season, and who can blame them for it? As Smith does get back ahead in the end in the run up the hill in towards turn number 9. Brilliant race. I don't think it's done yet. We've still got another 5 minutes to go. It might be the calm before the storm, but goodness me, what a brilliant storm it has been so far between these two. Meanwhile, looking back to the leaders, as they head for turn number 2. We are looking at Mika Hendricks and riding on board with the number 8 to your race leader over on in the pro class. He's got Francois Shink for company behind. Carl Ranieri overtakes John Lauzon in the rear of the picture to move into P3. It's the top 3 of pros now. The prime leader drops to P4 with Edwin offering David Adeyemi behind him, albeit an offer ahead of Adeyemi by the best part of 5 seconds. And as they make their way down under brake, and Hendricks defending to the inside, you can see there Shink looking around the outside trying to cut it back, but Hendricks just parks the car on apex and says, I know all those tricks, you have to be a bit more inventive than that. As they head in towards turn number 6, we'll make the way through the left-hander behind. That's going to be Lauzon battling with Ranieri once again, and Lauzon also wants what will be an overall podium just as much as he wants that prime win as well, and John Lauzon is absolutely going all in for it, but will it be to his detriment as they make the way in towards turn number 8? And as they do, with Shink right now still battling with Hendricks side by side in towards turn 9 into the left-hand. It's going to be a tight line for Shink. Hendricks got to give him the space, but the problem is for Hendricks is going to be off camber now, and as they make their way down to the heavily cambered turn number 10, we have one now stacking up under brake, and Lauzon very late on the brakes. Ranieri over the back of him. Carl Ranieri there having to siphon the car to the grass briefly in order to bleed the speed out of the car. I think in the end it's getting very, very testy between Lauzon and Ranieri. Both drivers absolutely giving it everything. I think there wouldn't be without a couple of bumps on the bumpers there as they make the way on through turn number 12. We've got another 3 laps to go if my maths is correct as they make the way onto lap number 24, and with only 3.5 minutes left here. Right now the championship might look as though they're being closed up, but meanwhile the battle for the wins today, it's not over by any stretch of means, as it's going to be Francois Shink up the inside here of Hendricks into turn 1, but Hendricks knowing there's plenty of opportunity to come back as they make the way in towards turn number 2. And meanwhile off camera, an update on the battle between Smith and Lane. Smith has got ahead of Serge Da Costa, and in the end Lane has dropped down to P15, but is trying to come back as soon as possible. There was an off track for Lane which we didn't see on camera, and that's what's led to the difference between the two in the battle for the P2 of the AM class or P13 overall. But focus on what's on our camera screens here. Here comes Hendricks on the inside of 3 to the outside of 4 as they head down towards the braking zone. Ranieri also on the inside there, trying to battle Lauzon, trying to get under the skin of his rival as Lauzon turns in, finds a face full of his rival. Contact between the two of them. Ranieri goes round, Lauzon with him, but in the end the Canadian driver keeps it together, and well for Carl Ranieri, car in the middle of the road, everyone splits the seats around him, just trying to get the car turned now as he does so once the field is cleared, but he drops down to P10 as a result of it. As replace is gained, and what I think in the end tempers getting frayed between Lauzon and Ranieri, and it was only going to go one of 2 ways. It was going to be contact, or one of them was going to end up on the what was the grass, and in the end it was the former rather than the latter, and Lauzon safely getting away with it, but meanwhile Ranieri losing out massively, and we'll weave up that now. Lauzon still leads the prime class, still has a 3.5 second gap. The best in P5, who is your second place prime driver, and he's still got David Adeyemi for company behind, as he has Julian Jones. And here's Adeyemi and Jones together, but Best has now got ahead of Adeyemi, and we're trying to break away a little bit more, and will Best will be trying to chase down Lauzon, who's got some damage on the car. Could that cost Lauzon some key time? Could it cause him to fall back into the clutch to his rivals with only 2 laps remaining here? It's all still to play for as they roar the way on around onto another lap, and meanwhile at the front of the field, Hendricks and Shink continue their fight. It's Hendricks on the inside, race leader dropping in behind Francois Shink. Bullock swings into turn 1. The white flag waves. In fact, this will be the final lap of racing, ladies and gentlemen. We won't have another one after this. This is your 25th and final lap. The rain has held off, and with it held off, we've had an absolute thrill of a race so far. But who's going to be your winner come the end of it? Will it be Francois Shink? Will it be Mika Hendricks? Or could Everett and Offred still the winner for the both of them? Should they take each other out? We'll have to wait and see as they make their way in towards turn number 3. Meanwhile, behind Jason Landry, 9 right now, where he currently is, will give him the overall Drivers' Championship in the Pro class, albeit he'll lose the Far East Cup to Mika Hendricks. But I think he's focusing on only one thing, and that is bringing the car home and battling with Jaden Calloway every step of the way in the fight for P8. But back to the battle between the leaders right now as Francois Shink looks to try and hold off Mika Hendricks, holding the position to turn number 4. But as they make the way on through the left-hander at turn number 6, well, right now the number 18 driver absolutely having to run to the edge of the circuit, corner to corner. I wouldn't be surprised there's no tyre life left to either of these cars right now. I can imagine the fuel tanks are practically empty as well. They're the lightest possible cars, but they've got the least amount of grip, and that's going to make them incredibly dicey here as they make their way into the final 4 corners of racing this season. Shink's on the inside, Hendricks looking around the outside, trying to set up the run to the inside of turn number 10, but it's 2 left-handers afterwards, and Hendricks backs off. He knows it's not worth it right now. He's got to get a better run here and sweep it all the way to the checker flag as they make their way through, but both drivers go a bit wide. It's going to be Hendricks who loses out more, drops the 10th there as they come through turn number 11, and as they make the way on down towards turn number 12, well, Francois Shink leads. He's 3.5 tenths clear, and as the checker flag gets ready to wave, 10 seconds left on the clock. This will be the final lap of racing, we believe, but as they make the way to the line, with a drag race now, 2 tenths, it's closing. Can Shink hold on? I think he can, because Francois Shink takes the win here at Phillip Island, over on in the Pro class, ahead of Mika Hendricks P2, Edwin Offroad P3, John Lauzon takes the Prime win P4, and with that becomes what is your Pro-Am champion for this season, ahead of Matt Best, followed by David Addy, Julian Jones, P7 ahead of Jason Landry, whose 8th place finish is enough to certify him your Pro champion for this season, with Jaden Calloway and Carl Rennie completing your top 10. Kevin Clark will shortly come through and to take what will be best the rest, P11, as he comes to the timeline, and as he does so, will mean, well, Mark Senegal comes across the line, P12 here, your AM winner for Sunday GT Turtles, but in the end it will be, I do believe, Nick Bader, who have done just enough, despite not racing today, to take the overall AM title. Kurt Smith, P2 in the AM class, ahead of Billman DaCosta, and Kurt Klein missing out on the AM podium with a P4 in class, P15 overall, and then we will have Kevin Manning, who after a brilliant start, an unfortunate early incident cost him extremely dear, and the Fotan Clan driver losing out today, but taking a P16 and P5 in the AM class, and then it's going to be your last finisher on the lead lap coming on through shortly. It is going to be none other than Carl Peterson for Caboose Crew. Well, it didn't quite go right at the start of today, but he's still going to bring it on home, and that's what it's all about, and keep himself eligible for what will be the 7 race participation raffle draw at the end of the season. And that's why all drivers have been encouraged to stay in each and every race, because the biggest prize of the season is all about participation. As he makes his way to the timeline, it'll be a P17 for Carl Peterson in the 250, and what a race, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. As GT Eddie in the Twitch chat says, good racing right here, and 100% with you on that, Eddie. We couldn't have asked for a better end to the season. And well, for John Lauzon, well, as we said earlier, he's been the bridesmaid for so many seasons of racing, but at long last, he becomes the bride, and he marries his name to the Pro-Am title in the middle of the pack Racing League. Winter GR86 Championship for 2024, and with it as well, I do believe takes the Prime at Far East Cup as he lines up at the start finish straight. He's going to be doing the donuts immediately here, ladies and gentlemen. The West Coast Best Coast driver, almost getting it wrong then, taking to the grass. He'll look to correct that shortly, as I think a number of drivers opted to do donuts. And what we can also confirm for you, based on the finishing positions here provisionally, it does mean that with West Coast Best Coast taking P2 and P4, so Mika Hendricks taking the Far East Cup with that 2nd place finish in the Pro class, West Coast Best Coast will have done enough to snatch away the team's championship title for Sunday GT Turtles. And well, as we do see Jason Landry there avoiding contact with Lauzon, he'll still be happy to take the Pro Championship overall, but at 9 it wasn't quite the team's championship given the finishing positions, as we also see Mark Senegal parking up there and wanting to join in on the fun. Well, as our drivers that do so, and indeed the smoke on the start finish straight there, as we look to the blimp camera, it has been a phenomenal season of racing. It's ended on perhaps what has been the precipice of the racing this season in terms of the absolute peak performance from all of our drivers. Nobody leaving anything on the table, as they say. And well, it's now time for us to take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So after an absolutely incredible 45 minutes of racing in round 8 of 8 in the middle of the pack Racing League Winter GR86 Championship for 2024, brought to you on iRacing, Francois Shink, your winner for Forever Alone by what was 1.5 tenths over West Coast Best Coast Mika Hendricks, and Edwin Nofred completing your top 3 overall podium. The privateer there fending off John Lauzon, who in the end finished 1.5 seconds behind as your prime winner. West Coast Best Coast, despite what was the late altercation with Carl Ranieri. And then as we can see, a P5 there for Matt Best, and we're at the runner-up spot in the Prime class today, and the privateer just ahead of fellow privateer for ITT West, David Adeyi, finishing behind the Texas Speed Sim Racing driver, and that is your Pro and podium of P4 through to P6. Julian Jones at P7 there for ITT West in what was a little bit of a quiet race for Jones after a great start. An early instant cost him quite dear. I mean, he couldn't quite get back into the fight for the Prime win. And then Jason Landry for Sunday GT Turtles, not working out between himself and what was Carl Ranieri, and then coming off the worst of the two of them in that mid-race instant and having to recover to P8. Jalen Calloway for ITT West and Carl Ranieri, the privateer, completing your top 10. Both drivers having difficult races at points, with Kevin Clark best rest P11 in the Mario Mobile, and the privateer being followed up by the AMPAC, with Mark Senegal leading the way to class victory today for Sunday GT Turtles, ahead of Kurt Smith, the privateer, and Billman DaCosta for Team Bearpoat, who made up your AM podium. Kurt Klein for Bear Pope 0 just missing out on the AM podium P15 ahead of Photon Clan's Kevin Manning. And as we can see, the last lead lap finisher there, P17, Carl Peterson for Caboose Crew. And then a lap down, Glenn Bratton after it was a great start and all signs are pointing upwards in practice. It didn't quite work out for the 289 driver today, but still plenty more races to come later this year for him, we reckon. 4 laps down, it was Aaron Lahr retiring before the end of the race. Unfortunately for the privateer after that late incident, and then Daniel McConnell for Texas Speed Sim Racing retiring 11 laps from the end and classified as a non-finisher, and the same for James D. Carr retiring 14 laps from the end for AlphaTauri and Rich Energy. Out of our 21 starters, we had 19 confirmed finishers, of which it was 17 of our drivers on the lead lap. But then coming on to the individual classes, and as we can see here, starting with the Pro class, Francois Shink taking the class win for Forever Alone ahead of West Coast Best Coast Mika Hendricks, and the privateer of Edwin Offred completing the podium. Jason Landry and Jalen Calloway round off the top 5, and there was a further, what was 2.5 seconds to Carl Ranieri, with then the 2 retirees of Daniel McConnell for Texas Speed Sim Racing and AlphaTauri and Rich Energy's James D. Carr completing the standings. We'll then come on to the Prime class. And in the second of our classes, John Lauzon, your winner for West Coast Best Coast by 2.6 seconds over Matt Best, and therefore taking all 3 of the bonus points, with 2 bonus points going to Matt Best, the privateer from Texas Speed Sim Racing, and then 1 bonus point for the ITD West privateer of David Adeyi, and there was further 3 attempts to Julian Jones, who in the end managed to finish the best part of 27 seconds clear of Kevin Clark. The privateer ended up fighting more of the AMs today rather than the primes, but still enjoying the batting all the same, and then the last finisher 4 laps down, Aaron Lahr, the lime green machine privateer. We'll then come on to the AM class, last but not least. And as we can see, Mark Senegal, your winner in the class by 3.2 seconds in an absolutely infallible race day for the Sunday GT Turtles driver. And Kurt Smith not able to fight for the win, but fighting hard for P2 and earning it the hard way. Head of Billman Da Costa, who completes the AM podium for Team Bear Pope. Kurt Klein and Kevin Manning completing your top 5. And Carl Peterson, your last lead lap finisher of the AM class, with Glenn Bratton finishing a lap down and taking P7. Well, goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, that is your recap of the results, and what a race it has been to conclude our double header in Australia, to conclude the Far East Cup and also our championship for this season. But of course, that does mean we now have the big question of how did it all end on points. Now, all the points are in, all the stewards' verdicts have been completed, and well, let's start off then by announcing who were your Far East Cup champions for this season of racing. And we start with the Pro class, and after 4 rounds of racing from rounds 5 through to 8, we can confirm with the second place finish today, Mika Hendricks has been able to take the Far East Cup in the Pro class by 7 points over Francois Shink, and Jason Landry in the end falling to P3 after leading the way going into this final round. Jaden Calloway, P4 on 148 points, doing well to keep Carl Ranieri at bay, with Edwin Offred missing the top 5, P6, ahead of Logan McKenzie, Zachary Lovelace and Daniel McConnell, and congratulations to Mika Hendricks on taking the Far East Cup crown. We then come to the Prime class, and here we can see in the Far East Cup by 6 points, John Lauzon at today's his win in the class, and the P4 overall certifying him your Far East Cup champion ahead of Matt Best, who kept him honest every inch of the way from round to round, and indeed we couldn't have asked for a closer fight between the 2 drivers, and those 6 points there belie the fact that in every race, Best was right there with Lauzon to the checker flag. David Adeyi doing well to finish P3 in the end ahead of Kevin Clark, with Julian Jones having a difficult cup and finishing P5 as a result on 107 points. Now it's David Turn, Aaron Lahr and Jermaine Warren completing the standings. Then we come to the AM class. And here we can see Kurt Klein, in the absence of Nick Bader, well, the door was open and he seized it. Despite finishing P4 in the class and P15 overall, he took the championship by what was 8 points over Billman Da Costa, with further 9 points to Carl Peterson there. And with Carl Peterson's consistency proving and paying dividends, in fact he managed to take P3 only a point ahead of Glenn Bratton in their close rivalry. It was a further point to Mark Senegal and another point to Nick Bader, for 2 points to Tim Chong in P7, and then Kevin Manning a further 2 points behind. And what a brilliant AM class it has to be said, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact in the end, from P1 through to P8 in the Far East Cup, we've seen a separation of our top 8 drivers by a margin of only 24 points. Such is the tenacity with which they've battled this season. Nick Yakubov P9, Kurt Smith P10, and well, that concludes the Far East Cup standings. So to give you a reminder then, our Cup Championship winners for the Far East Cup, congratulations go to, in the Pro class, the number 82 of Mika Hendricks of West Coast Best Coast, and it's a double for West Coast Best Coast, as we say congratulations to John Lauzon in the 177 in the Pro-Am class, and in the AM class, Bear Pope Zeros, Kurt Klein walks away with the title there. And well, congratulations to them. They all earn $5 as a prize. And now let's come on to the overall Drivers' Championship, and with it also the Teams' Championship final standings. And we start top of the Pro Drivers' Championship. And as we can see, Jason Landry is your champion by 15 points over Francois Shink on 322 to 307. And Mika Hendricks completes the top three there on 295 by a margin of 31 over Jaden Callaway. And Onofre completed the top five by only 5 points over Carl Ranieri, with Logan McKenzie missing out on P6, and in the end, between the two of them, a result count back and the win for Carl Ranieri that we saw earlier in the season, and also the number of podiums he's picked up, was the difference between himself and Logan McKenzie. Daniel McConnell, Zachary Lovelace and Milan Harris completed your top 10, with James Logston and James Decart P11, P12 and completing the standings. Now we come to the Prime class, and as we can see, John Lauzon, your Pro-Am champion, taking his first overall driver's title. Indeed, he's missed out multiple seasons in a row, but not today in the Toyota GR86 Winter Championship for 2024, and taking that title by the best part of what was 32 points over Julian Jones, with David Adeyi in the end just besting Matt Best based on result count back in the fight for P3. Aaron Lark, P5 there, 2 points clear of Kevin Clark, with David Turn P7 ahead of Sammy Hendricks, Samuel Bellotti and Jermaine Warren, who completes the top 10, and Adam J. Ballard, best the rest, P11. And as we come to the AM class, well, here we can see Nick Bader, your champion, despite not being on the grid today. His results earlier on in the season and the combination of those and the drop score, he's taken the title by 6 points over Mark Senegal, who in the end finishes P2 ahead of Kirk Lane by 2 points. Indeed, what a close championship battle between all three of the drivers, and Tim Chong not on the grid either today, and it's a question of what could have been if Chong had been on the grid, but still he'll take a P4, and knowing that his pace has improved significantly since the start of the season, and that's why he was a championship contender. Billman DaCosta P5 and 195 points, completing at that top 5 ahead of Glenn Bratton. Kevin Manning only a point behind Bratton at the end, and then Carl Peterson, Roger Ganesh and Nick Yakubov completing your top 10. Best of P11, Ian Hennebury ahead of Kurt Smith, with Jared Kelly, Jason Seelin, Jesse Jarrison Jr. and Christopher Holliday completing the championship standings. So with that, we also do now have the Teams Championship, and your confirmation by 2 points. West Coast, Best Coast have done enough to usurp Sunday GT Turtles literally right at the end of the season in the season finale. And well, Meek Hendricks and John Lauzon put in an absolutely sublime performance at Phillip Island in order to get the job done at the last hurdle, and congratulations to them. ITD West, meanwhile, P3 there in no man's land, but closing the gap to the top 2 quite dramatically in the season finale, it must be said. But then again, having a sizable 140-point advantage over Texas Speed Sim Racing, with Slipstream Sloths holding on to their P5 position by what was the best part of 7 points over Bear Pope 0. Forever Alone, Alberto Rich Energy, Team Bearpo and Photon Clan completed was your top 10, and look at that, only a single point relegated Caboose Crew to being best the rest P11 behind Photon Clan, and then you couldn't have asked for a closer fight between them for the final top 10 spot, and Rockefeller Races Esports Purple and Esports Red teams completing the stands on 76 and 60 points apiece. So to give you a quick recap of the overall championship winners, we want to say a big congratulations to our Drivers' Championship winners, starting in the Pro class with the number 5 driver from Sunday GT Turtles of Jason Landry, and then the 177 of John Lauzon for West Coast, Best Coast in the Pram class, and lastly the 233 of Nick Bader, the privateer in the AM class, and they will all be receiving each $20 for their championship crowns. And in the Teams Championship, $30 as split between the drivers of West Coast, Best Coast goes to Mika Hendricks in the 82 in the Pro class and John Lauzon in the 177 in the Prime class. Congratulations to them in what have been some absolutely enthralling championship battles from start to finish. Also, with regards to the raffle prize, remember there was a raffle up for grabs, the series participation and raffle prize for competing in 7 or more rounds of this series. Well, that went to the 132 driver of David Adeyi of the Prime driver there, the privateer for ITD West, and congratulations to him, his consistency and perseverance paying off, and he walks away with the biggest prize of the season, of course, and that prize being none other than $50, and that's why it always pays to compete in each and every round, because the biggest prize is all about participation in the Middle of the Pack Racing League Series. So to give you a recap then of all of our prize winners and champions, we say congratulations to all of them. Firstly, Jason Landry in the Pro class in the number 5 for $20 for finishing first in the overall Drivers' Championship, and also taking a $5 for winning the Classic Cup in the Pro class. And then to John Lauzon in the 177 in the Prime class, we see $20 for finishing first in the overall Drivers' Championship, and also being part of the overall Teams Championship winners for West Coast, Best Coast. He takes part of $30 and also $5 for winning the Far East Cup. Nick Bader in the AM class in the 233 at $20 for finishing first in the overall Drivers' Championship and also winning the Classic Cup, taking an extra $5 with that. And then we come to Mika Hendricks in the Pro class in the 82, firstly taking part of $30 for the overall Teams Championship win with West Coast Best Coast alongside John Lauzon, and also $5 for winning the Far East Cup. Then coming to our other free prize winners, congratulations to Julian Jones, the Pro-Am driver in the 133, for winning the Classic Cup early in the season for rounds 1 through to 4, and with that taking $5. And we also see Kirk Lane, the AM driver in the 281, for winning the Far East Cup, taking $5 to his name, and David Adeyi taking $50 for being the winner of the series participation raffle. And the Pro-Am driver there will be absolutely pleased with that, as will all of our drivers. And congratulations to all, and a huge congratulations to all of our drivers who took part in the season. Whether they won any prizes or not, competing was all part of the story, and they have made this season what it is. I'm going to put it out there. It has been one of the finest, if not our best, season of racing in the middle of the pack racing league, given the intensity of the racing from lights out to checker flag, round after round, and what a way to start off our series of 2024. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you did enjoy the racing today, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to be on the grid for our upcoming series, we've got plenty more planned, and more on that very shortly over the rest of 2024. Well, if you want to know all about that and plenty more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community, we do recommend you join our official Discord, link available on screen there, and it's the #1 place to go to, particularly from the North American continent, or you can work with North American time zones if you want to go racing a whole variety of machines on iRacing in a highly friendly and highly competitive community. But if you don't want to join the Discord, perhaps you're feeling a little bit shy, then you can always follow us on social media, and the best place to do so is on our official Twitter. That's at twitter.com/MOP Racing. We can stay up to date with all the latest announcements regarding our ongoing and upcoming series, and also the trials and tribulations of the official Middle of the Pack Racing League esports teams. But now we must turn our attentions to next time. And well, this season is complete, but don't fret. We've got plenty more races coming in 2024. And well, next up is going to be our F4 series. That's right, the Formula 4s are being brought out of their garages, and we'll stay tuned, because on the Middle of the Pack Racing League Discord, we will be announcing soon the sign-ups and also the calendar for this series. I'm very pleased to say, ladies and gentlemen, that subject to everything being finalised, I'm going to be back in the commentary booth covering all the racing as if it were live and post-round broadcast, and we cannot wait to see how it all gets underway in the Formula 4s. It's going to be cracking. It's going to be a full season open wheel racing, and you won't want to miss it. But with that brings the curtain down on the Winter GR86 Championship for 2024, hosted by the Middle of the Pack Racing League. And what I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX1 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.